Greetings everyone, my name is Kenneth M. Victoria and I am from 2ITC, and I am here to discuss and present about climate change. But before I start the discussion, I must tell you guys that this discussion is about to answer what is climate change, what is the difference of climate and weather, and what are the causes of the climate change, and lastly, what are the effects of the climate change. So let's start. What are the climate change? So the climate change is about or refers to the sudden change in environmental condition of the earth. So if we talk about environmental condition, it can come up in rising of temperature and lowering of temperature. Either any of that way. This it's talk about changing of environmental conditions of the earth. So the second, let's proceed to another topic. So the another topic is going to discuss the differences of climate and weather. So what is weather? As we all know, weather is just a short-term effect in atmosphere. So what short-term effect? So it can be also effect during a day or weeks, or not in a month or not in a years, but also just ranging in days and months based on the weather, if it's not good or it's not well. And also weather is a small scale geographic area of effect. So if we talk about small scale geographic effect, so in certain, it's just affecting some part of the places, but not in everywhere. As in, there's a specific places that affect because of the weather. And the third characteristic of weather is that it can change rapidly. Why I can say it can change rapidly? Because weather can also change a day before it starts based on the weather or how the weather is built. And now I'm going to present what is climate. So the climate is a long-term effect. Why did I say long-term effect? Because climate can occur in years, as in years, because it has some sudden changes because of a sudden scenarios that can trigger the climate changing. And the area of effect of this climate changing or climate is a large scale geographic area of effect. Why it's large? Why is a large scale effect? Because if we say climate, it's about affecting the whole planet or the whole earth, wherever the places it be. Because as we all know that the earth is round. So if we talk about it's round, so the possibly effects of the climates can be also spread around the world because it's around. And the other characteristic of the climate is very slow to change. Yes, it's slow to change because it's slow to happen or to occur. So it's basically no that it is slow to change or to remove the climate change. Now I'm going to discuss what is the things that causes climate change. There's several things that causes climate change, but first I'm gonna start in generating power or electricity. As we all know, generating power or electricity can be produced by burning fossil fuel. And we all know if we burn fossil fuel, it can produce gas waste. Not just a gas waste, but a massive gas waste. And because of that, it can trigger a climate change because of the massive carbon dioxide and other gases that is bad for the earth, and that can trigger the climate change. And the next one is manufacturing goods not just goods but also foods. Why? As we all know, industries is working with electricity, but not just in electricity but also in gases. So as we all know, there's different kinds of machines that uses electricity. Some of machines uses gas in order to run. So not just gas waste, but also manufacturing goods and foods also can produce solid waste and liquid waste that is also affecting the earth and can also trigger the climate change. So if we say, if the manufacturing goods and foods is run by producing or making things out of different materials, and as it produce, some of those materials are going to be a waste, as in a waste. You can never use it. So all you're gonna do is to dump those waste. But the problem is where the factories or industries gonna dump those solid waste or liquid waste. And that is the most baddest part of manufacturing or industries, because it can just be dumped anywhere, or not to dump but to burn it also. But and it can also bring gas waste also. So there's no any way to prevent any waste to produce by the industries, by manufacturing goods and foods. And the other reasons is cutting down trees. So why the cutting down trees affects or causes climate change? Because as we all know, trees are the ones that help the earth to remove any carbon dioxide or any bad gases that circulates in the earth atmosphere. So without those trees, there's no way to circulate those carbon dioxide and any other gases that can affect the earth. So if cutting those trees will be occurred, then there's no way to find a way to circulate those or to recycle those gas wastes. And that other reasons or the causes of climate change is transportation. As we all know that the transportation or vehicles runs in order by burning gases, and those gases produce carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide is the very one of the most things that makes or triggers the climate change. Because as we all know, there are so many population around the world, and also it's rising the number of transportation or vehicles itself. And the other reason is powering buildings. Why powering buildings causes climate change? As we all know, as the buildings is powered, it needs or it requires more electricity. And as we all know, electricity can be produced by burning fossil fuel and other things that is bad, or that is can affect the climate change. And the last part is about humans. It's about consuming too much electricity. As a humans, we all know that we really need so much electricity. But that is a bad way, because if we use more electricity, then we can just putting the earth in a very dangerous situation, because it can produce more risk in climate change. And by eating too much and not knowing to dump those waste in the right way. Because if we just dump those food waste in anywhere we can find, and that may cause problem and can lead into climate change. So let's go to the effects of the climate change. So the effects of climate change can come up in making the temperature of Earth higher or hotter. So if we talk about hotter temperature, it can also lead in increases of heat waves. So what is heat waves? As we all know, if the temperatures comes high, heat waves will be created too, and that heat waves can affect any living things in terms of putting them in danger in any kind of heat related illness or sickness, and not also producing or increasing heat waves, but also in producing an wildfire. Why it can produce wildfire? Because as we all know, as the temperature rise, and therefore the sudden of wildfire will come up anywhere in around the world, but most likely in places that is more dried places, because it's more thing that can be affected by the hotter temperature. And the next one is the more severe storm. Why more severe storm? As we all know, as the climate change occur, it can also affect the weathers. Yes, weather, but not a normal way, but in a severe way. So if there's climate change, it can also make severe storms, because climate change can affect everything in geographically. So that's why it can produce more severe storms. And one of the effects of the climate change is also increase of drought. Why drought? As the temperature rises, as we all know, more and more water can be dissolved. Why dissolved? Because of the heat. So if there are so much heat in the earth, therefore the water can be dried and dissolved. So if the climate change occur in many years, so there is chance that more of water bodies can be thawed or dried because of those massive heat or rising of temperature. And also one of the effects is a warming or rising ocean. Why rising ocean? As we all know, as the temperature of the earth rise, other bodies that contains ice will melt away, and as the ices or glaciers melt away, it can make or produce more water that can fill up any places or any land in around the world. Why it can make the water rise? Because as we all know, as the ice melt, it can produce water. So that's the point of warming, and that will lead a rising of the ocean, and that is a very bad situation because it can affect everything of living things, including humans and animals also. And others effects of climate change is loss of species in animal, but not just in animals but also in people, but in specifically in animals. Why, and what are the reason why species can be lost? First, as the temperature rises, many of the animals will catch any heat sickness. They could die in thirst because of so much high temperature, they can also die in heart attack. Yes, animals can also have an heart attack because they also have a heart, just like the humans. So they can also catch any heat sickness. And not just with that, but as you all know, climate change, it can causes calamities, and those calamities will destroy any habitats of any animals. And if the calamities destroy those habitats of the animals, it can also lead to dying of those animals because they don't have any place or any habitat to live for, because some of the animals are very they need that habitat in order to survive because they only live in those places. And one of the effects of climate change is not enough food. Why not enough food? So I'm gonna answer it. Why enough food? Why not enough food? As we all know, if the climate change occurs so that the temperature will high, yes, it will rise, and the people will more likely to get thirst because of the heatness. So the uses or the expenses of the water or the usage of the water will rise in the more percentage as what a normal uses percent, and not just also in thirst but also in hunger. Why? As you all know that climate change can also destroy food in terms of farming, so more likely in rice. So if the climate change occur, there's no way you can plant any rice in a safe way or in a successful way because of the heat. So because of the high or rising temperature, any crops will not be successfully grown because they will receive more of heat that the crops needed, and that will lead them to be dried or lead to destroyed because of the so much heat that they can receive. And that's why climate change can also affect of having not enough food. And also the main reasons or the main effect of climate change is health risks, because of the highest temperatures that can occur if the climate change happens, and that will lead an heart attack of the any of living things, including the people, because of the sudden rising heat. It will also lead any heat illness, but also not just health illness, but everything like in skin illness and respiratory, just any kind of affection of health risks. And the last one is poverty and displacement. Why it can also lead in poverty and displacement? As we all know, climate change can bring calamities, and that calamities is more likely to be severe, and it can also destroy any properties. And as we all know, those calamities are more affecting in the poverty state of people because they don't have enough house that can protect them in any kind of calamities, so that they are the number ones that can be affected in times of calamities. And also displacement. Why climate change affects displacement? As we all know, as the climate change occurs, the government will action in order to counter the climate change in way of destroying any houses in order to build any industries that can help in climate change. And that's why displacement is also one of the effects of climate change. But the all reasons why climate change happen is more likely because of humans itself. Why? Because human tends to work in every things that causes or that the reason why climate change can happen in terms of vehicles and industries and many other things. That's all. Thank you.